Hi, everyone. Welcome to Studio Jake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy, and I've got a very special guest with me today. I know her personally. We've met a couple of times, and we've talked on the phone a couple of times. It is Joy Vila. She is a #1 Amazon and Billboard music artist. She's bold in the entertainment industry, taking on stances, political and personal, that you don't often see in the world of Hollywood, and I'm very excited to have her on. Be sure to subscribe, share, and ring that little bell here on Studio Jake. Joy, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yay! It's awesome to be here. Great to be on your show. I see all your amazing tweets and your hey follow, and so I love that you're part of Joy Tribe. Joy Tribe.
100% I am. And it's really crazy because growing up in Texas, the bulk of the music I listened to was country music or rock.
Wow.
And so I saw you make your big stand at the Grammys a couple of years ago with the beautiful MAGA dress. And I'll be honest, I wasn't a Trump supporter. But after he became president, now I find myself, I'm like, how can I not be a Trump supporter?
Right. Well, you're one of the smart ones, right? I mean, that's really what happened. I wasn't a Trump supporter until late in the game, just in time to get red-pilled and vote for him. It really wasn't until September probably that I really was like, okay, let me look at this guy. I looked at him. I was like, I don't know if I like him yet. And then around November, I was like, okay, this is the guy. And then in January, I became super diehard. So it was like sort of degrees of Trumpiness. And now, of course, I'm a strong supporter, and it's just grown even more. I think a lot of people are doing that. You know, we have a lot of people in the walkaway movement who are just becoming Trumplicans because he's doing great things.
And it makes sense. And part for me, what has brought me over is just the hysteria among the left elites, because if I feel like whenever he started doing good things, I would be like, oh, okay, well, this is, like whenever he became really pro-life and ended the Mexico City policy and all of this. But I see now, like, all these comedians like Chelsea Handler, Amy Schumer, Michelle Wolf, that just the hysteria in their social media and their shows. And I'm just curious, like, especially Michelle Wolf just totally lost it. She did this thing where she said, celebrate abortions and let's have abortions. And you are one of the few entertainers in the industry that has taken a pro-life stance. And I'm curious, like, what is your reaction to that sort of, I'll say it, Trump derangement syndrome?
It is definitely Trump derangement syndrome. Well, it's easy to say you're one thing and say you're pro-life, but if you don't actually do things to support the pro-life community, I mean, it's a good thing to be pro-life, but I'm very active in the community. I decided to share my personal story because I faced a crisis pregnancy at age 20. And instead of giving my child, over to abortion, destroying her life, I chose adoption, even though I was pressured to get an abortion by the nurse who did my pregnancy test. And it was something that was very hard at 20 years old. I wasn't ready, mentally, physically, stability wise at all. Some people are ready at 20. I wasn't. And I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but being pro-life and giving my child up for adoption, what's open, I know her today, is not one of those mistakes. It's one of the best things I've done in my life. So I really started sharing my story about a year ago. And then this year I wore my pro-life gown, pro-Trump the year before, pro-life this year. And I've sort of just been wearing my morals and my values really on my sleeve, literally. And I think it's important to be open about it because I really want to spark the conversation. There's so many people who don't talk about it and they're scared to talk about it. But if they do talk about it, it's the other side. Like we see Chelsea Handler or we see Michelle Wolf, she's a relatively new comedian that, like, to the stage, I would say. She's probably been doing it for a while, but to the broad stage of the world. And, after she did the correspondence dinner, she made cracks about abortion. Don't knock it until you try it. But if you do try it, really knock it, get that baby out of there. I mean, it's not funny, right? It's just obviously being very provoking. And listen, I have a sense of humor, provocation and humor are things like, I think we on the right and even in the middle and a lot of people on the left actually have great humor. But when it's done to be gross and just to make light of something that is a very personal decision for many women and to make it seem like it's nothing to murder a child, that's not funny. I think children are hands off. Like if you're gonna make jokes, make cute jokes, but don't make jokes about sexualizing children or killing children. It's just that crosses a line. It's just something that's like, we have to have something sacred. So she did that in a very public place. And of course, Netflix gave her own show. And in her own show, she did this whole comedy, sing and dance, you know, a ridiculous thing, you know, acted like with no respect for herself or anyone else, where she's saying abortion's all American, it's great, it's beautiful, and everyone should get an abortion, celebrating it. And that is really just to be provocative in a way that's not helping anybody. Provocation is good if it gets a conversation started, but she's not saying, hey, listen, I had an abortion, I personally feel okay, but I realize other people have had abortions and they don't feel okay, and I want to be sensitive to that, or I want to have, she could have some pro-life people on her show where they talk about it, and she can be pro-choice, fine, she has that right, but to then make fun of it, and she even insulted pro-life women. I mean, there's a lot of strong, brave women, not just like myself, but others who are pro-life, and men who stand up for the sanctity of life. That's what we're talking about here. So, you know, what if her mom had been as pro-choice as she is? She wouldn't be here today. And I mean, as a former fetus, I have to say I'm against abortion.
And that's one thing that for my generation, millennial generation, is there's a growing pro-life movement in the millennial generation. And it's because they realize, wait, when my parents were pro-choice, they were talking about me. And I think there's a disconnect there with some of these far left comedians. And we're seeing it now where they're in this panic about Roe versus Wade, which, you know, and we see it with Brett Kavanaugh and Trump's latest SCOTUS pick, who, now I'll be honest, Kavanaugh was not my first choice, but I think he's a good choice. He's the right choice. And
who was your first choice?
Mike Lee. And I know he was a long shot from the beginning because we don't want to lose him in the Senate. But Mike Lee was my first choice. But Brett Kavanaugh was, I think he was tied for second with Amy Barrett.
Amy Barrett was my first choice. She's a mom of 6, 2 of who she adopted. I mean, and she's a judge. I mean, it's incredible, you know?
The perfect, yeah, exactly. What one thing you would think the left would celebrate, a working mom who is in the on a federal judgeship and all this, but but I do like Brett Kavanaugh, and
he's a good guy.
He is, and he was appointed to federal court in a bipartisan manner. You think that the Democrats would be excited, but you see this panic about him, and I'm just
anybody Trump picked they would panic about. Anything he does, they panic about. I mean, that's really the unfair situation here, you know. But that's also why, like, people like yourself, like, you're a libertarian, is that right?
Well, no, I consider myself just a straight conservative.
Straight conservative, but you weren't a Trumplican, so you're straight conservative. But that, like, even the leftist hysteria has pushed straight conservatives, libertarians, and Democrats, independents, people who never vote, have gone over to become Trump and go, well, I met a guy the other day, goes, I've never voted in my life, but in 2020, I'm voting for Trump. It's like, wow, because of the hysteria surrounding him.
And that's actually me too. That's me too. I'm like, like, even with when Bush was president, who I supported Bush when he was president.
Yeah, so did I.
It wasn't to the level of hysteria. There was a lot. You
were too young to vote for Bush, though, right?
Well, no, but he was leaving office when I became old enough to vote.
Oh, wow! I thought you were my age. You're older than you look.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm turning 30 next month. So.
Oh, great! Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, okay, the big 3-0.
You're young. Yeah.
Well, and that's my thing, though. It's like, Whenever I was a never Trumper, and then after he became president, I'm like, this does not make sense. Just the pure full on. And I plan to vote for Trump in 2020. He has convinced me. But part of that convincing was, like you said, I think if Trump had appointed Merrick Garland, who's a good man, I disagree with him politically, but he's a good man. I think if Trump had appointed him, all of a sudden he would have become a right winger.
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah. If Trump had appointed another Kennedy, right? Like, somebody, that would have been like, oh, hidden right-wing past. I mean, if Trump suddenly said, you know what, I think Hillary should work for me, you know, of course he would never do that because he's a good human, decent human being, but suddenly they would hate Hillary. I mean, that's just how it is. You know, Trump cured cancer. Suddenly they'd be like, no, my choice, my body, my choice. I choose to have cancer.
Right.
Yeah. It's insane. If he walked on water, they would say he can't swim.
Yeah, exactly. It was. It's been crazy. And like I said, I'm Trump 2020 all the way.
Nice.
Intend on supporting him, and because he's
Yes.
won me over. I can't deny it.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Michael Knowles, who we both know,
Yeah.
and I
Love
was
Mike.
telling him, I was like, because Michael wrote this piece about what the I guess you could say, like, the never Trumpers who are still kind of lagging on. I won't name names, but you know who I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking
And
about.
everything Knowles said was correct in his piece. And I told Knowles, I said, it's kind of scaring me because I'm agreeing with you, but I will never admit that I said this. So all my fans, don't tweet
Too
Michael Knowles,
late.
but he was right.
It's
Yeah, too
already
late.
out there. It's
He was
already
right about that.
trending on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. But and part of that with Trump being pro-life, and the entertainment industry being predominantly abortion, what we're talking about,
Yeah.
one of the things I really respect about you is your boldness, wearing your pro-life dress, which was beautiful, by the way. It was
Thank
a very
you.
beautiful dress.
I hand painted it.
You hand painted that? That's amazing.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
my
know that.
purse. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Not just creative on the music scene. That's really
That's right. I've been painting since I was 8 as well.
Oh, that's incredible. And
Yeah.
I'm curious how, with you being in the entertainment industry and being pro-life, do you see with more pro-life people speaking out? Is there going to be a shift in the industry? How would you, as a person, how would you go about bringing that shift? I guess is what I'm asking.
I would say being a shift, I don't know. It's not going to happen naturally, but
Right.
this is really the pro-life generation. So us millennials and even the next generation is starting to become way more pro-life, like you said, because they realize, oh, well, we've been fed all this pro-choice stuff. And even I got caught up in that. I was like, oh, maybe it's like to each his own. And yeah, I'm a feminist and SJW. Yeah, maybe that's the right way. Because you live in this atmosphere, in this climate where it's an echo chamber. And you're really taught to believe that that's the right way to be until you realize we're talking about murdering people here. This is never going to be okay, and there has to be compassion and love in everything. So for me, I'm working on the legislative side to get the heartbeat bill passed, which is if a heartbeat can be detected, the child's life should be protected. And I released the PSA about that, and it's getting a lot of traction. It already passed in the House. We're trying to pass it to the Senate. And we have a pro-life president, pro-life vice president, pro-life administration. It's really beautiful time for pro-lifers. And as far as entertainment, they're going to hit back even harder. I remember I was at an event. I was at this was probably like 7 years ago, before anybody knew my name. I was at still a musician, still doing my thing, and actress as well. And I was at what awards was it? It was, one of the big award shows, I forget which, but Sarah Silverman was up there. She was presenting an award and she cracked an abortion joke, a really crude joke. Honestly, it probably pales in comparison. I don't even remember the joke, but it was something similar to Michelle Wolf and Chelsea Handler. And the audience was just silent. Nobody thought it was funny. People were like, Like it was like you could drop a coin, and then she just went along and went away. So then I saw that same presentation air, and I happened to have watched it, and they added in canned laughter. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I was there live. I was in the front row watching her. I heard the 0% laughter there, and they added in a bunch of laughter. And of course, she must have known that because when she dropped the joke live, she responded and looked at the audience. You wait for laughter, but there was no laughter, but she pretended that there was because she knew they would put that in. So you see Michelle Wolf, you see all these comedians out there, they know they're going to get canned laughter. They know it's going to be edited to make them look good. Unfortunately, so that whole system has to be broken down. The only way it can be broken down is for people like me and you, young people who are in the entertainment industry, to just be proud and say, hey, I'm pro-life. And to just be compassionate and to be loving to people who are pro-choice. So say, like, you have a right to believe the way you do, but let me tell you why I believe the way I do. Right. And I also have a right to also voice my opinion. And that's what I wanted to do. I like to say, be provocate to peace. Like be provocative in peace, which is something that is kind of funny. It's almost like a, opposite. Right. But I like to provoke people to then talk about things peacefully, which is really what I think needs to be done. And as we talk about it, you change hearts and minds. And hopefully we see a lot more. There are a lot of pro-lifers in Hollywood. They're just very quiet about it. Like there's a lot of pro-Trumpers in Hollywood. They're just very quiet about it because they'll lose jobs if they speak about it.
And we spoke with, well, I won't say his name because I don't want him to lose his job. But
you don't out anybody. Don't
right? Yeah, exactly. I spoke with, well, not me personally, but just in a conversation, there was an actor who came by the Daily Wire offices, and he told Ben that, and he said, there's a lot more conservatives in Hollywood than people think, but they're keeping quiet because they want to keep working. And it's so sad that it's come to that place, because in the 90s, there was definitely a liberal bent to Hollywood, but I wouldn't say it would. But like if you watch movies from the 90s, like Cool Runnings and Blank Check, like there definitely are conservative values in those films. You know,
oh my gosh, Blank Check, yeah.
It's on Hulu. I just watched it on Hulu. That's why it's fresh in my mind.
I've seen it since I was a kid. Yeah, it's true though. You had a lot more of conservative or liberal wasn't such a thing that would get you killed. It was more like, okay, the good people are liberals, was the so-called, propaganda, and those other ones are Republicans, but we won't talk about that. Like Michael Jordan, when they said like, oh, what about you? You have Republican fans. What do you think about George Bush? And this, he goes, you know what? Republicans buy sneakers too.
Right.
So that's really how it was. It was like, because he's probably a Republican. I can't say for sure, but anyone who would have been cool like that is probably Republican or independent and just doesn't care about the BS. But nowadays, he would be blacklisted for saying something like that. I mean, they tried to get Adidas to drop Kanye West after he came out for Trump. Luckily, Adidas did not, probably because he makes them so much money. But what chance does anybody have if Kanye West who's the king of provocation? You can't even talk about Trump without people saying boycott him and losing millions of followers. It's ridiculous right now, which just means that's good because people are waking up. People need to wake up. People need to see the truth and they need to be stirred a little bit. So Trump is waking people up. And you just imagine if every conservative in Hollywood came out, it would be massive. I really want to see that. I want to see a massive walk away campaign, or not walk away, maybe like a wake up, because they're already conservatives, like a wake up or be out, be bright, some sort of campaign where every Hollywood celebrity who is conservative or maybe they vote Democrat, but they're not a hater. They support freedom of speech. They support the Constitution. They support, we just see a hard left, an alt left. But if everyone who just wasn't like alt left came out, that'd be massive. I'd love to see that as the next wave, the next red wave. And we could all start our own companies, Yeah,
absolutely. And that's one thing I love about these single outlets where like YouTube, and I know YouTube has been accused of shadow banning conservatives like Twitter and Facebook, but we're finding that we're unstoppable. And like me being a nerd and talking about conservatism with an amazing singer like yourself, you are actually launching a podcast, The Joy Vila Show, which I am extremely excited about.
Thank you.
Tell everyone a little bit about that. Like, what are you going to talk about on the show? And what's going
politics. It's going to be pop culture. It's going to be entertainment. So I'm going to talk about anything and everything with my conservative spin on it, of course, being an artist and voting Republican, being a Republican, a reborn Republican. But it won't be necessarily all politics, because I want to bring in different people across the aisle. I want to just bring in interesting characters to share their stories. And sometimes I won't have guests. Sometimes it'll just be me talking about different things. 30 minutes every Saturday. So, for you weekend warriors, because there's not really any podcasts that are out on Saturdays. That's when I ask my friends. I say, well, I want to listen to podcasts on Saturdays and Sundays too. So it'll be at 9 a.m. Pacific time every Saturday morning. That'll be 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it'll be called The Joy Vila Show. And you can get it for free on iTunes, the podcast app, and anywhere that, typical podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, it'll be everywhere. We want to have a big opening day. That's August 4th. Hopefully it'll get like to the top of the charts. And I just want to do it as a labor of love. It'll be a great way to just, have my opinions heard. I do a lot of live streams all the time, and my fans have been asking me for a podcast. So I go, well, it's how easy is that? I'll do that. No problem. anything for the fans, anything for the movement and the cause, and to just get things out there, positive things out there, positive conversation about things out there.
And that's really cool. And you said it's going to be on iTunes. Are you going to also put it here on YouTube, or is YouTube going to be more like a vlog? Or
you know, YouTube, I'll probably put it on YouTube, just the audio. I've taped some of them, you know. Right now we're just sort of like getting the studio together to do, we don't have like a big studio for it. We do have a studio, have small staff. So right now it's just more like me just recording when I feel like it and then putting it up every Saturday. But eventually it will be an actual video of the podcast, but we'll put the audio up on YouTube for sure, so people can listen.
Awesome.
And that's youtube.com/Miss Joy Villa, MISS Joy Villa. So that's youtube.com/Miss Joy Villa.
And one more thing I want to get to before you go, you actually have a new CD coming out, and you've released a couple of songs from it, and you're going on tour, I believe, right?
Yeah, we're planning the tour. It's sort of up in the air right now, but we're looking at the end of the year, probably some local dates in Los Angeles, just getting the band together. And because I'm also recording at the same time on my next album, but I released Home Sweet Home. That's the new album that I started releasing singles from, Home Sweet Home, which is available on iTunes and Amazon. And
actually on my blog, I have them reviewed. So all my fans go to my blog and just search Joy Villa in the search bar, and she'll come right up. So
awesome.
Definitely check those out. Joy, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh yeah, I love the work you do on your own blog and at the Daily Wire. You're just rocking it, Jacob.
Well, thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media?
So you can go to twitter.com/@joy_villa. So on Twitter, I'm @joy_villa. Also on Periscope, the same thing, @joy_villa. I Periscope almost daily, at least every other day. And on Instagram, which I also do live Instagrams daily or every other day, that's @joyvilla. And then Facebook is Joy Villa Music, @Joy Villa Music. I also do a couple times a week lives on Facebook. Lots of live streamings. So you can find me. And you can go to joyvilla.com, where everything is. That's the hub of Joy Tribe, joyvilla.com.
Nice. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter @RealJacobAiry. My Instagram is real.jacob.airy. Facebook is author Jacob Airy. You can find my political writings at thedailywire.com. My blog is jacobairy.blog. And of course, subscribe here at Studio Jake here on YouTube. Ring the little bell, because we all know notifications don't mean anything anymore in the subscription bar. But
that's right. They keep changing it.
Yeah, exactly. And I know I usually do a show on Sunday. Today I did Saturday because I wanted to have Joy on really, really bad. I've been trying to make this happen for a couple of months now, so I'm glad I was able to do this. So no show tomorrow, but there will be a vlog up on Wednesday. I'll see everyone next time right here on Studio Jake.